James Pearse Connelly is nominated for Outstanding Production Design for a variety, reality, or competition series for his work on Fox's The Masked Singer. I'm Denton Davidson for Gold Derby, and James, you've won before. You took home an Emmy for the 2008 MTV Video Music Awards, and you just won a Daytime Emmy last year for The Kelly Clarkson Show. So after multiple nominations for things like The Voice and Bill Nye Saves the World, you've gotten your first nomination for The Masked Singer. So what did you do to change things up in seasons 4 and 5 that sparked this recognition all of a sudden?
Whoa. You've done your homework. I'm super impressed. I almost didn't remember a lot of that, actually. That's awesome. Thanks for this. Yeah, so I did get nominated. It's really special. I'll be honest. I'm coming off of a high from the Daytime Emmys. I was nominated twice for Craftopia and Kelly Clarkson. Didn't win. Actually, not won quite a bit, so it was okay. And I really had no expectation at all this year on the Primetime Emmys. We're coming off of a really, really tricky year for set design and production design in general. And looking at The Masked Singer, it was a journey. And I think that I have been on the show since day one with Craig Plestis. He reached out to me and said he had a format from Korea and Thailand. This is a few years ago. He wanted me to take a look at it, and he was working on getting it into Fox. I don't think it was actually greenlit at the time when we were starting to talk. And I've been on this project since then. And so I do consider this a little bit of my baby. I've worked on it. I've helped work on it in Germany. I've done the Japanese version on Amazon. But this year was different because we had started looking at this season just very, very preliminarily before the pandemic. And I will tell you, and I guess everybody who's listening, thanks both of you maybe, that there's so much work in this season that you don't see because of the pandemic. And, we started in March and it went right through to June, July. I don't even remember. And I must have done, I think, over 20 or 30 audience versions, pivoting every single time around there was a new law or a new code or even a new idea from the executive side. Oh, what if we did this? Oh, what if we did that? And as I look at these nominees, it's kind of like a survey, I think, of how everybody dealt with the pandemic. And I'm proud of The Masked Singer. In fact, I think much more than ever before. And I actually went to dinner with my partner right when we were nominated. And I said, this one's kind of special just because I'm sort of proud of where we landed with the show to tell its story during the pandemic. I feel like we went through so many different iterations, and using virtual technology and experimenting it for the first time and taking a massive risk for the first time before anybody did it, before Mariah Carey did it on her Apple Plus show, before they were doing it with Drew Barrymore on CBS. I mean, The Masked Singer came out and Fox said, let's try it. Let's shoot for this. That sounds great. And that, I don't think I'll ever forget that. Whether we win a trophy or not, I think I'm blessed to be recognized for that part of my life and this process.
And you have a diverse history in the business, but there's a lot of competitions, game shows, talk shows. What excites you the most about working on those types of sets?
First off, the types of shows that I do, I don't have to read, so there's no scripts, and it's really exciting. I kid because I like it so much because production design is such an important character in all these shows. For a minute, I'm 41, and earlier in my career, I feel like I'm at sort of the middle of it maybe. I was recognized a lot for The Voice, and I think we've been nominated 10 times or something like that for that show. And so I think I got a little spoiled with that show, being recognized for it. I put a lot of heart into that show. I continue to. I think I've done 21 seasons. I really love this genre, reality, talk, variety. Being recognized for The Masked Singer, though, among a few other projects, makes me feel really appreciated, as if, I'm not just a flash in the pan. I'm not just a new kid that everybody's talking about. I feel like the work is genuinely getting recognized, and it's different work, and it's not just a trend. I think it's actually legitimate, and it feels really good. So that's, I don't know. I mean, did I answer the question, or did I just prattle on?
Oh, no, that was great.
Okay.
What do you think is the most fun thing about working on The Masked Singer, and what's the most challenging?
Ooh, good question. The most challenging is to make sure that it stays fresh, and to work within the parameters that you're given. I think there are always challenges with shows that grow with tremendous success. I think that clients from our side can become a little conservative as opposed to taking large risks. I wouldn't say that necessarily specifically about Fox, but when you're on a successful show, everyone pays attention. This is just what happens all the time. And so I think the challenge for a designer is to keep it fresh, keep it moving, challenge and come up with new ideas that are not habitual or derivative, really just kind of making sure that you're pushing the client to think in a new way. And I think that that's a big challenge for The Masked Singer, and something that I like to do to all the projects we work on. The most exciting too is obviously the show format's just brilliant, and guessing, I don't get a chance to know who's in those masks and costumes. So guessing that is actually the most exciting. I mean, I call it a little goofy, but it's actually really kind of fun to be backstage during rehearsal and be like, who do you think that is?
Are you good at it? Are you good at guessing?
Terrible. I'm awful at it. I'm awful at it. I'm good at design, and that's just about it, I think. I don't know.
So, the main set design, we see them coming out of, those big masks before the performance, and the huge panelist table, which changed with the pandemic because of how far apart they had to be seated. How much time goes into just making that set design to kick things off and make sure you have sort of a home base for everyone?
It varies. Every project is different. You want it to be more, always. I think at a certain level, I will say sometimes, because these schedules get so shortened, in budgeting processes, a lot of the times the design process is extremely aggressive. I can't remember what we had for The Masked Singer. Obviously, the world ground down to a halt, so we definitely had a little bit more time to process it. We went through a lot of different iterations, like most productions did. But I will say that you got to be really good to work within, let's say, generally on average, a design process can be from 2 months to 2 weeks. Wow. And in fact, we've done it even in a week and a half. I feel like our world record is around there. And you really need to have a strong workflow, a sense of confidence, and an amazing team to deliver. I mean, you're building a house. Sometimes it's even bigger. It has a lot more technology than a house. And you've got to be able to commit and think through and engineer and construct something really fast. So I'd have to look back on the schedule on this particular process, but we did have a fair amount of time to get it right.
And I love the backstage. It's like a museum of former performers. What was the inspiration behind that?
It actually goes back quite a few seasons. Craig and I talked about how to make the costumes and the masks and the characters kind of digestible for the American audience. And that's different than what was being produced over in Asia. And we focused on superheroes. And we focused on big, larger than life characters with super abilities. And when we took a look at the backstage, and this is my favorite part about stage design sometimes, it's really kind of building the world around the stage. Sometimes stages are large abstractions and beautiful, with beautiful finishes and technology. And then when you start to really put the show together in the edit, there are all these other worlds that come up in the story, and I love designing them. So when we looked at this one, it wasn't just backstage with road cases. It wasn't just your sort of like rehearsal hall and that sort of thing. It was actually kind of like a superhero's lair. And it turned out it was a little bit more like a bat cave in a way, where you could hang up all the bat suits and display them in these airtight chambers where they were untouchable. And so we built these plinths with all sorts of built-in lighting, and then these, not just, hangers and just stick the thing on there, but full, structures that hold these characters up, ready to be, basically ready for the celebrity to suit up and get on out there. So yeah, it's based on Superhero's Lair, and they still call it the Lair, actually.
Yeah. And they feel like superheroes when they're out there sometimes. Some of them are kind of. And so when you get to the performances, how much, what does that look like for an episode when you have all these performances? What's the process like of learning who the character is, what the song is, and then they say, okay, go. Then what's your process?
It's a completely different process than building the stage design. And oftentimes it happens insanely faster than one would think. It's based on the song selection and a lot of the choreography and what the talent is more comfortable with. In this season, though, it was a real pivot. It wasn't about large physical props and stage decks that roll out or backup singers and dancers. There were a lot of COVID restrictions at the time and a lot to be navigated. So there was a ton that was leaned into AR elements and virtual set extension, which is a complete pivot from your normal performance show. In fact, I think that at the time there were maybe just 3 or 4 shows that ever done that, like VMAs and I can't remember off the top of my head. So for a giant series with even shorter schedule, the VMAs has like 6 months to 8 months to prep. Like the Masked Singer chooses a song 3 days in advance, and then it's a scramble to figure out a concept. And you're working collaboratively with the director, the choreographer, the celebrity, even though that person isn't in the room because you don't know who it is. And so it's a sit-down meeting. They run through all the song selections, some of the initial concept work from the choreographer. I see this, I see that. And then it's really like a pitch fest where the lighting designer throws out ideas, the art director throws out ideas, and together it's all made right there in the room. And then everybody spreads out and puts it together and starts, sort of email flurry from there.
And you mentioned you don't know who the celebrities are. So there are times within, the performances or things that are presented that are clues within the show. So do they just sort of say, we want to put this clue in, fit it in somewhere, and then you just kind of have to roll with it?
Because of the secrecy of the show, it's a very small group, which is just like another hurdle to deal with. But it's such a small group that deals with the generation of the clues and then also producing of the clues. In season 1, I was heavily involved in the clue building. As the show's developed, and actually, it's a consequence on the popularity of the show. They've limited that group and the production of those clue sequences, I guess, and packages, what they call them, to a little bit limited amount. So I'm not involved in that anymore, and that's okay actually, because it just sort of keeps the guessing game alive on our side.
Yeah. And then the pandemic obviously changed how production design works. How did that change your process in terms of, how many people you're able to work with, how you're able to get things set up on set?
Oh, it's been unbelievable. And I will say, if you asked me in April, I would not have said that. I probably would have broken down and cried. I didn't know if anybody was going to build sets for several months, but the truth be told is we've learned so much in our own design team's process on how to communicate and what daily goals are. But also, you've probably talked to thousands of people about the power of Zoom. So I'm not going to repeat any of that stuff about how you can talk to people We've used it to share a screen and fly through our 3D models and really get a sense of the space with directors that we never have done before. Some live kind of modeling and sort of auditioning of different textures through Zoom, through the power of share screen. That's wonderful. But ultimately, I think what we've really come away with is we've gotten heavily involved with virtual production technology. My design studio, and it's a team of about 10 full-time, we're in Unreal Engine, and I had really never really told anybody that for about 6 years because it was just such a fast program for me, and it allowed me to audition new finishes and a lot of different options personally as a designer in real time. And when the pandemic struck and hit, a gentleman by the name of Michael Zinman called me, who was experimenting in virtual production, and said, "Hey, listen, I know that you're in Unreal Engine. I know that you do your previs renderings in that engine. You really need to talk to me about virtual production. Michael does all the visuals on Masked Singer." And I said, "Yeah, let's talk. I mean, I'm obviously doing nothing right now." So we talked, and we went right from there into another talk show that was built around a green screen, all live 3D world around a green screen. And it's launched us into a completely different, and yet at the same time, one would say the same sort of world building process, industry and vertical. So really, we're a production design house in virtual and physical, and it couldn't be any more exciting around here, actually. I feel like it's an incredibly dynamic new industry to partake in. And since we're such experts in architecture, we can build worlds in this space. It's awesome. I can't thank COVID enough, those folks in Wuhan.
I mean, there's positives to every workplace that I think came out of this, if nothing else. I'm always curious when I talk to people, where did your passion for production design come from, and what was that first sort of big break where you're like, oh, I'm in the business?
Oh God, passion. Yes, maybe passion is correct. Sometimes it's a love-hate. I think I mean, I am a theater kid from high school. I was backstage my entire life. I wasn't an actor. I just did lighting design in high school, and I really by default got into set design because I didn't want to study French anymore or take hard science classes. And so I said, I'm just going to go to theater school and do design, I guess. I'm just going to check this design box because I think it's kind of easy. And I think in college, I learned that a designer is a problem solver. And I have a passion for aesthetics. And so I could use aesthetics and art to solve problems. And I kind of fell in love with that, although I still feel like it's, something that I bring up in therapy, in terms of like, how many problems do I need to fix to make people happy? Why am I making people happy? But I've done it forever. And I've learned that it's not the craft that makes the work better. It's sort of life experience that makes the work better, and it's practice makes perfect. And I've become really obsessed with just becoming as good as I possibly can. And so I've taken on multiple projects and invited people into a team and a company to work with me to help create. And I am obsessed with this craft. Like, sort of can't stop thinking about it all the time. And even though it drives me crazy sometimes, and clients can make me a little bit crazy sometimes, I am obsessed with getting it right and trying to figure out what the brand is for a show. And I am obsessed, and I know I'm repeating that word, with starting a show where the design is sort of the problem to figure out and the brand to create. You can do a show like The Voice for 21 seasons. The most exciting time is when you get to make a new space for the artists, when you have a challenge with a Masked Singer to create something new and fresh. And I just love that. And it's sort of like, it's given me the voice that I have in the industry. And I'm really proud of it.
Well, James Pearse Connelly, we are wishing you the best of luck at this year's Emmys. I'm going to encourage our viewers to head over to goldderby.com, make your Emmy predictions, beat those experts. And you can also check out more interviews with top contenders like James here. James, thanks again for chatting with me about The Masked Singer, and good luck.
You're so welcome. And by the way, you guys always predict the winners.
We have the prediction center going strong every season, and our viewers are pretty good.
Once you listen, if you get into an Emmy or an Oscar ballot, the secret is check goldderby.com, and then all those you're going to win the pool. This has happened to me twice, and I swear by it. So I'm dying to see what you guys predict for this one. I'm glad to be there and hopeful, but we'll see.
It's a tough category, but we'll keep an eye on your odds, and we wish you good luck. And thanks for the endorsements.
Thank you, of course. Yes, please. All right. Thanks so much.